Welcome back, this is Goku Sun DBZ, and this is a new best to worst list. A franchise that I've now can officially say I have played every game in the series to, and yeah, I'm getting a bit worn. So, plus, I've decided to put on this shirt, and if you can see it says Soulcalibur. So, that is to let you know what today's list is. Today's list is in my opinion, best to worst games of the Soulcalibur franchise. All 10 games, including like free-to-play game on PSN. So with that said, and overall I'll give a grade, also how I would grade it on my screen system and everything. So with that said, let's start, in my opinion, the weakest of the Soulcalibur franchise. And that is the most, I guess you could say, recent-esque type game. The game that is exclusively only on PlayStation Network, or PSN, rather. And, in my opinion, the weakest of the series is the game called Soulcalibur Lost Swords. By far my least favorite of the games. Don't like it. I tried giving it a chance, and I just couldn't get into it personally. I just don't like the model. I just don't like overall the game. So, in my opinion, it's by far the weakest. I give it a D-. And, yeah. Hands down, the weakest by far, in 10th place of the 10 games. Next, coming at number 9, is a game I had to borrow from a friend of mine because I don't own the game personally. I give this game a D+. But it's not an actual fine game, it's a hack and slash S type game, I guess you could say. It was released in 2007 for the Nintendo Wii. And the game is called Soulcalibur Legends. And in my opinion, it's by far, of the regular console games, it is the weakest. Still, as bad as it is, it's still way better than the other game previous, Lost Swords. But Legends, I mean, don't get me wrong, to me, it just feels like a weak hack and slash type game that tries to piggyback off of the Soulcalibur franchise. There's a lot of glitch issues, and I think gameplay mechanically speaking, I don't think the game's very good overall. And that's more so the issues I have with the game than the story and stuff. It has to do more with the actual mechanics of the game, the gameplay, and the fact I did notice glitch issues and stuff. Maybe because it was an earlier Wii game. But nevertheless, yeah, comes in 9th place of the 10 games. Coming in at 8th place is by far, I think, the worst of the mainline games in the franchise. Coming at number 8, I would give it a C- still, nevertheless, just because I liked some of the returning characters. But I didn't care too much for the overall story mode, especially certain mainline characters in the game I found is just complete douchebag. Specifically, one character in particular. This game was released on the PS3 and the 360. And that, of course, is Soulcalibur 5. In my opinion, is by far the worst of the mainline games in the franchise. And of the normal fighting games in the series, it is by far the weakest, in my opinion. Music is one of the main reasons it gets a C- rather than a D rating. The soundtrack is one of the only redeeming things. I mean, graphically, it looks good. That's another positive it has. Graphics are good. Music is good for the most part. And I like some of the character redesigns, and I didn't mind the fact you had a character Enzo from Assassin's Creed 2 was pretty cool. But I didn't like the overall gameplay of Soulcalibur 5. It's one of the biggest gripes I have with the game, specifically, is the way they implement some of the mechanics in the game. Also, I absolutely hate the son of Sulfiq, the in that game. He is a complete douchebag. I don't know how anybody could consider him a hero. If you play his story mode, you see how much of a douchebag he is. I mean, seriously, I hate him with a passion. He is by far my least favorite character in the entire Soulcalibur franchise, bar none. And that's why Soulcalibur 5 comes in 8th place, because of mechanic issues and that one particular character. Coming in at number 7, also gets a C-, but I will say it had more to do with the fact I didn't think there was enough overall stuff to really enjoy the game. There wasn't a traditional arcade mode or anything in the game, and that's one of the major gripes I have with the game. The music was good, the gameplay was solid, especially for being a mobile game. I thought it was great. Coming in at 7th place is a game released on the PSP, released in 2009, and of course that is the side mobile game, or handheld game, of course, Broken Destiny, which is more or less just a handheld port of Soulcalibur 4, I guess you could say. And Soulcalibur 4 is a good game, but I do have definitely some issues with the handheld version, though I still give it a C- overall. I think it still has a lot of positives. I mean, as a handheld game, it looks good for handheld. I don't like how it tries to pretend like you're playing online when you're not, and why they felt the need to do away with the normal, traditional arcade mode and stuff. These are some of the main gripes I have with Soulcalibur Broken Destiny. But with that said, coming in at number 6, released on the 360 and the PS3, I give this game a C+. And it was released in 2008. Coming at number 6 is Soulcalibur 4. Comes in at 6th place. So the highest of the first half. Why does it get 6th place? Because there are 5 games in the series, I think specifically better overall than Soulcalibur 4, but that's nothing to knock on Soulcalibur 4. Soulcalibur 4 is a good game. I just felt like they piggybacked a little too much off of the fact you had Star Wars characters. Yoda, which was a pain in the ass to fight, in my opinion. I mean, the fact a lot of your normal attacks could not hurt him because of being so small in the game. That made hard. Pretty much the same issue you would have with Gun in, of course, Tekken 3. Pretty much. In both Namco games, funny enough. And both guest characters. Vader is actually quite fun, I think, overall. And the character creation mode is my absolute favorite thing about Soulcalibur 4. Is by far the best part. The music is still really good, and I like a lot, at least gameplay-wise, Soulcalibur 4 is a lot better than Soulcalibur 5, thank goodness. And there's more redeeming qualities, and I even kind of like the boss of 4, even though I don't like him as much as some of the others. But with that said, it gets 6th place, even though that's no knock against it. Like I said, I would give it a grade of a C+, so still positive. Coming in 5th place, released in 1995, the first game in the franchise. It was released on the original PlayStation, PSX or PS1 rather. This was the game that was the introduction for me to the franchise, and was only the second ever, I guess you could say, weapon-based fighting game, specifically based on weapons and stuff. This and Bushido Blade were the first 2 weapon-based fighting games based on that area specifically, and I think they were definitely a great introduction to that subgenre. With that said, yeah, 5th place is the original Soul Blade, also known as Soul Edge, of course, in Japan. Soul Blade is a great game. Even to this day, on occasion, at least a couple times a year, I will pop it in on my PS3, and I will play Soul Blade. It's actually really fun. I think the soundtrack still sounds great for the most part. Yeah, it's not great production value, but for the time period it came out in, I think sound-wise, music, the audio quality is actually not bad. Now, unfortunately, in the domain of like voice acting and stuff, it's not great. But this was the mid-90s, to be fair. Voice acting was not great at that time. It was still relatively young in video games and stuff, especially for voice acting work. Keep in mind, because this was pretty early still in the 3D era. So you have to also forgive. I think gameplay-wise, mechanically speaking, Soul Blade plays a lot better than Tekken 1 or Tekken 2. Not as good as Tekken 3, but I think it's definitely superior to Tekken 1 and 2, gameplay aspect-wise. So that's good. And the opening credits is still, in my opinion, probably about the best in the franchise of opening credits. Coming in, and it has a nostalgia factor for me as well, why it gets 5th place. But I give this like a B+ rating. It's a great game. Coming in at number 4, it gets an A-. So we're already in the A's at 4th place. And this is the most recent game in the franchise, which of course was released console-wise, PS4 and Xbox One, and of course that is Soulcalibur 6. Yeah, it's in 4th place for me. I really like Soulcalibur 4, and I actually really like the redesign of Inferno specifically. Is one of the biggest things I like about that game specifically, is the redesign. I don't like some of the newer way he plays overall, but I do really dig the redesign for Inferno. Not to mention, I think Aswell is one of the coolest new design and gameplay implemented characters in the franchise as a whole. Definitely one of the coolest new characters, original characters in the franchise in quite a long time, in my opinion. I mean, I'd probably say he's probably maybe the best new character in the franchise since maybe Soulcalibur 3, in my opinion, personally. Some people might disagree, and that's fine. But for me, I just really like Aswell. I like also, especially the gameplay of Nightmare. And Nightmare, as a whole, has always been pretty much my favorite character in the entire Soulcalibur franchise as a whole. I just love Nightmare. I guess you could say of like other YouTubers, like Maximilian Dude is obsessed and loves Siegfried, and I feel the same way for Nightmare. So, there's that. And I gotta say, I like the design of Nightmare in Soulcalibur 6. I like his redesign. Not my favorite Nightmare design overall. I think that honor maybe goes to Soulcalibur 2. Nightmare is probably my favorite design overall. But this is probably my second favorite, or neck and neck with Soulcalibur 5. The only good thing about Soulcalibur 5 was Nightmare. But, yeah, Soulcalibur 6 is great. I love the specials in the game. They're awesome. Nightmare special is epic. I love the character creation. As you've seen, I've been doing my special, like, Soulcalibur 6 tournament and stuff right now. A mixture of regular characters from the game as well as mixed in a bunch of my personal created characters. And that's the thing. That's one of my favorite things to do in my time when I'm not at work or something. I want to relax. I do one of two things that I want. I do Minecraft or character creation mode on Soulcalibur 6. They're two of my favorite things to do just when I want to relax and it reduce stress. Seriously, it's great. And with a lot more of armor sets coming out, DLC future for customization, there's going to be even more to do. That's probably the absolute best part about Soulcalibur 6's character creation. Plus, also, I gotta admit, I like some of the DLC characters, specifically the redesigned gameplay-wise and everything of a certain Sister Sulfite, the Cassandra. This is my favorite version of Cassandra by far. But yeah, 4th place. Coming in 3rd place, getting a normal A rating. Released in 2002, a game I went out of my way to get all 3 versions of. GameCube, PS2, and original Xbox. Coming in 3rd place is probably a lot of people's personal favorite Soulcalibur game, and I can see why. But for me, third place, Soulcalibur 2. It's a great game, don't get me wrong. I love it. I mean, there's a reason it is in my top 3. And it barely beat out Soulcalibur 4, or Soulcalibur 6. But, yeah, seriously, Soulcalibur 2 is a lot of fun. I love the stages, the music. Soulcalibur 2 is probably my second favorite game in the franchise, soundtrack-wise. Easily. I mean, the music is just superb in the game. And I love Talon is probably one of my all-time favorite characters in the whole franchise. Talon's probably top 5 favorite characters of all time in the franchise. So yeah, in this game I introduced her. She was a lot of fun, and one of the things I like about 6 is bringing back Talon, thank goodness. Also, I gotta admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the design of Inferno from Soulcalibur 2, one of the biggest gripes I have. Though, there's a lot of stuff from Soulcalibur 2 I do like quite a bit. But, for the most part, yeah, as I said, I love Nightmare in Soulcalibur 2 quite a bit. Also, I wish characters like Necrid played better and weren't so trash gameplay-wise, because he's awesome design character, no surprise, given Todd McFarlane created Necro, just like Spawn, of course, which was in the Xbox version, which is awesome, and Link in the GameCube version, which is a lot of fun as well. And I'm going to try not keep this video too much longer. Coming in second place, released exclusively on the PS2, released in 2005. This gets a base A along with the previous one. It's pretty much was neck and neck between Soulcalibur 2 and Soulcalibur 3, which ended up just barely beating it out. Soulcalibur 3 gets second place. To me, I love Soulcalibur 3. Soulcalibur 3 has probably my favorite version of Siegfried. Of all the versions of Siegfried, I think by far Soulcalibur 3 version of Siegfried is my favorite, bar none. Nightmare's redesign, I don't mind too much in Soulcalibur 3. I like his gameplay quite a bit in Soulcalibur 3. Design-wise, Nightmare in Soulcalibur 3 is not my favorite, but gameplay-wise, probably my second favorite version of Nightmare in gameplay aspect. It's great. Music is superb, though, in Soulcalibur 3 as well is great. I like the story better in Soulcalibur 3. Soulcalibur 3 would be, of course, our introduction to Tira, which would become sort of the Harley Quinn of Soulcalibur, I guess you could say. At least in my opinion, anyways. I would consider her more Harley Quinn-esque, especially in Soulcalibur 6. But with that said, Soulcalibur 3 gets second, and mainly because easily my favorite boss that is not Inferno is on this game, and that is Abyss. I actually like Abyss quite a bit. One of the things I liked about the redesign of Zoslamel in Soulcalibur 6 was the fact they took elements, gameplay aspects of Abyss and added it to him. And that's something I appreciate. As a big fan of Abyss, yeah, he can be quite a pain in the ass to fight against, but he's a lot of fun, and as a boss, I actually like his design. When you fight Abyss, you kind of feel like you're fighting a creature that came out of, like, Dark Souls or something. Difficulty-wise, not Dark Souls difficult, but design-wise, it feels like something from Dark Souls, in my opinion. And that's a good thing. But coming in at number 1 now, Nostalgia Factor, my number 1 favorite soundtrack of all time of the entire franchise, and my favorite version of Inferno is in this version. Yeah, he's pretty simplistic design, but I love his stage and overall stage designs, by far my favorite. And this really shouldn't be a surprise that this is my favorite of the Soulcalibur series, given it's my number 1 favorite 3D fighting game of all time. Coming at number 1 favorite Soulcalibur game is the original Soulcalibur on the Sega Dreamcast, which interestingly enough briefly had like a mobile release, which I wanted to get, but unfortunately it became not available on Google Play. So Gee, thanks for that, Google, for making it where I couldn't end up adding Soulcalibur on my phone. But Soulcalibur 1 is just a lot of fun. The music is great. Heck, I still play this game off and on quite a bit to this day. There's not too many fine games I will go out of my way to replay off and on. But Soulcalibur is, and it is easily my #1 favorite Sega Dreamcast game of all time as well. So that is definitely saying something, but that, in my opinion, that is the best to worst list of the entire Soulcalibur franchise. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is your opinion on the Soulcalibur franchise? Which is your personal favorite Soulcalibur game? Heck, what's your favorite Soulcalibur game music-wise, character, and also I want to say quick shout-out of characters I love from Soulcalibur 1, and that being, obviously, Edgemaster. Love him. And I love the design, specifically, of characters from that game. I think my personal favorite redesign in Soulcalibur 1 was the redesign of Siegfried. Really liked it, and I love to stage Venice. Which, of course, right now, Venice is going through a lot of flooding problems, so thoughts are with you, Venice, Italy. Anyways, I'll cut this video. I'll see you next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.